Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Unsecurity podcast. I'm your host, Brad Knight, with co-host Megan Larkins. Hello, Megan. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Brad?
Doing well. I'm over the gray, cloudy, rainy weather, but that's at least it's not snow yet. Uh, Today we have a guest with us, Andrew Cook from Recon InfoSec. Andrew, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So we always like to start this off with, a hobby or something you're working on, whatever it may be. So we'll start with Megan. Give Andrew a second to think of something outside of work.
Yeah,
What do you have going on, Megan?
I've been mostly sticking with my couple hobbies, still working on playing the Zelda game where you actually play as Princess Zelda. That's going well, making progress, working through, Deku Forest right now, and they're very cute little guys. That's a lot of fun. Um, and then I just got surprised with a early Christmas present of some Magic the Gathering Bloomburrow commander decks. So I'm kind of grinning ear to ear right now because they're on my desk.
Nice, nice. What about you, Andrew? What do you do for fun outside of work?
Yeah, so we're always looking for hikes and trips to go on. So we just got back from Big Bend National Park out there in Texas. We tried the camper van thing, so that was
Nice.
kind of fun. But Texas also has a lot of great state parks that we've been going to. So I rotate through a lot of hobbies. So we went through camping and hiking and those kind of things. But yeah, you talk about Zelda. I'm slowly getting sucked back into, I don't know, rediscovering some gaming things. So Elden Ring, I think I'm like
Yeah,
2 years later on that. Subnautica. I don't know. I'm just rediscovering some video games lately that are sucking me in a little bit. Yeah.
I will warn you. I just finished Elden Ring earlier this year. For
Oh,
same thing.
it's hard.
I my first pass through it was about 230 hours.
Oh man, I feel like I've gotten nowhere. It's the
Uh
hardest.
huh. Yeah. Until like level 70, I was like, this is miserable.
I haven't
But
played Elden Ring, but I did just play through both the Subnautica games within the last year sometime, and they were a
Yeah,
blast.
yeah.
very cool. Uh, yeah, so playing some video games. That's been fun working on the Millennium Falcon uh, as those come through. So that's been fun. I decided I wasn't planning on like aging it and distressing it, but I couldn't resist.
Yeah,
So
that looks cool. Adding your own flair to it, right?
yeah,
Making yours look better, different, special than everybody else's.
yeah. It makes it a little bit more like important,
Yeah,
gives it a
yeah.
little more meaning. So that definitely keeps me out of trouble though. So let's get started, Andrew. I guess tell us let's start with you and how you got to where you're at, and then tell us a little bit about. We'll go into what Recon InfoSec does.
Yeah, so I'm Andrew Cook. I'm the CTO of Recon InfoSec. My start in cybersecurity was largely through and credited to the Air Force. So back in college, got sort of recruited into the ROTC program, and what got me looking at the Air Force specifically, this is back 2007, I think, was they were the first service that recognized quote unquote cyberspace as a warfighting domain. So they said, if I'm going to try any of these, this military thing out, I'll try the Air Force out. And I joined and never looked back. So did the college thing, did the active duty. On active duty, I had a really great opportunity there to stand up what they were calling a new paradigm for defensive cyber operations. So landed at the unit and they threw out the old mission and they said, we're going to do it. We're going to do this thing called threat hunting. And we said, well, what is threat hunting? And they said, we don't know, figure it out, right? You're going to do it differently. We have a SOC, we have them doing everything there. You guys are going to do it differently. And so it was a lot of folks kind of figuring out the new way of doing things, how to do security operations differently, how to think about what the role of threat hunting was, what it even meant. This was before MITRE ATT&CK too. So,
Mm.
we're really kind of rewinding the clock there. But anyway, that gave me a great foundation for what it takes to find and stop bad guys in sort of a new and interesting way. Kind of got the dopamine hit, find some bad guys for real. And so when I got out, I joined the National Guard. Is this all you want? I'm going to give the whole background in one.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
just
So I got
yeah,
out
it's
of
good to hear.
got the Air Force with some great experiences and some great folks. Joined the National Guard, so that was the part-time thing, and that got involved in incident response in some cool ways, because it was not just cybersecurity incident response. Texas at that point had done some of the first, I was involved in some of the first spinning up the National Guard for cyber emergencies. So things that statewide ransomware response that was, I forget the year, 2018, 20, I don't know what year that was. But yeah, spinning up the National Guard for cyber emergencies and ransomware events was part of that team doing that for the first time. And then also getting called a few months later for hurricane response, right? So you send out the cyber squad, and there I am at a Red Cross shelter, moving cots around, handing out water, working that kind of incident. So the National Guard was great there too. But yeah, did a lot of consulting, training, incident response, kind of bringing what I learned about threat hunting into the commercial world through some engagements through a few different companies, and then landed at Recon, which is sort of, for me, I mean, it's the pinnacle. It's of what I've been hoping to do. We're finding, stopping bad guys at scale, threat hunting every single day, lots of contact with the adversary. It's exactly what I want to be doing, on top of a great team and a great platform of, everything I wished I had in the Air Force 14 years ago, whatever it is. Now we're running it real, right? Yeah.
That's very cool. No, I think it's good because, we all have such different stories to how we got to where we're at. It's good to hear everybody's kind of journey, because especially for the people that are just starting out, like, there is no right way. Mm-hmm. We all just are very varied.
Yeah, I'll never stop anybody from joining the Air Force. I mean, I don't regret leaving. I don't regret joining. I don't regret leaving when I did. But that springboard for me was huge. Everything, tons of great training, tons of great opportunities. Yeah, if you're interested in that route, especially ROTC through the Air Force, I don't think I made any mistakes there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, very cool. So, with that, tell us a little bit about what makes Recon InfoSec different, or what is the approach there?
Mm-hmm. So Recon InfoSec, we're primarily a provider of managed security operations, right? You think managed detection and response, 24/7 SOC, protecting our customers. And again, for me, it's the culmination of everything I wished we had been doing for this many, however long I've been doing this, doing it right. So we do a few things that I think are sort of lessons that I accumulated. One is, from the onset, I wanted to make sure we didn't have this idea of analysts as just these ticket taking machines, right? So I wanted the analyst position to be a quality position, right? Because I think well qualified, motivated, engaged analysts are what lead to good outcomes. And if you give them the right tools and the right opportunities, and you point them toward the, go find evil, they're going to do it. So there's no super strict pyramid structure where, hey, your job is just this tier 1 ticket taking thing. We're just going to send an army of interns to handle these overwhelming number of alerts.
Yeah.
No, we are all incident responders. We're all threat hunters. We're all detection engineers. We're all playbook developers, and everybody's contributing into that machine. So the collective best thinking, the collective wisdom of every single member of our team is incorporated where we can in the technology, because we control our own technology and our own playbooks, or it's at least trained to everybody else. So we are in total I forget how to say it. It feels like Bilbo trying to say, like, I like half as much as you deserve. But basically, we're not as smart as our smartest person. Our machine reflects as smart as everybody is, right? Yeah. And so we just give a lot of great opportunities for every single person in the team to be contributing, building into the rest of what the company is doing and how we work. So nobody's getting siloed and just taking tickets. On the other side, which is where pyramids can go wrong, we don't just have people that are only doing incident response, getting burned out from incident response, right? Meanwhile, you've got these younger guys that just want to do some incident response, and you've got the more senior guys saying, man, I wish I could have some help, right? So yeah, I think the way we've structured things, I think the way we've sort of given really interesting and compelling roles to the analysts, and then we've got some really fun things that we do on the tech side to,
Nice.
to keep people around, right? If I was as high caliber as what we want people to be, and I didn't have the greatest tools, then how long would I be at that spot, right? So we're constantly moving and iterating to make sure we're using the latest and greatest. Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I guess I'm sure you've seen some crazy stuff. What would be the thing that you've seen that made you just go like, what? Kind of have to do that double take of like, what is this? Is this real?
Yeah. So I just ran into another case, and I thought we were done with this. I thought insurance killed it. Of what was essentially RDP exposed to the internet with factor authentication. That was the prompting of, I think I found a blog post that I wrote about your ransomware incident is entirely predictable.
Mm-hmm. See that.
And then another sort of rant on LinkedIn about your pen test wasn't as cool as you thought because we're doing the same things over and over again. There's some controls that I am just sort of, I can't believe we're in the same spot again, right? So yeah, that's where that is. The other thing that, if you're going to put me on a lamenting some things, MFA. So the MFA battle, I think, is just sort of disheartening a little bit because you've got organizations that have worked really hard to roll out MFA for O365 or whatever. They've got all their users using Authy, they've got authenticators, they've got some form of MFA, right? They finally did it. And the escalation, the battle doesn't stop because now it's attacker in the middle, now it's phish resistant MFA, now it's, I'm sorry that, whether your users got MFA prompt bombed or not, they put their code into the bad website and it's the same thing over, right? So it's disheartening to get places that have implemented MFA think they've done something and then to help them with their incident when they're like, what did I just spend all this time implementing MFA and training 2,000 people who just want to do their job, and then we got compromised anyway, right? So yeah, phish resistant MFA and FIDO2 and YubiKeys and passkeys, and the complexity of all that is like, it just keeps escalating, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're always playing from behind. It's funny because I was asking the lead for our IR team just to kind of get a feel in case it came up. What are the biggest things that they're seeing this year? Because they've already had like 150% of the cases they closed last year, they've already closed this year. So it's increased pretty significantly. And it's a ton of business email compromises, but then for internal compromises, it's VPN is the initial point, right? So it's exactly in line with what you're seeing.
Yeah, it's always VPN on the initial point, especially if there's no MFA. And we're working a ton of business email compromise and account compromises. And it's again just a really disappointing game of whack-a-mole when now you have all these Typhoon phishing kits and all these ways of doing proxying the MFA such that the MFA is just largely rendered ineffective, right? Unless you have FIDO2 and WebAuthn, which not everybody has, right?
Yeah. Well, and now with the AI prompts, like the phishing emails have gotten, you used to be able to catch a lot of the grammatical stuff. You're not seeing as much of that.
We just a couple years ago really got involved in a big way on the email as a battlefront. So what we were seeing was, hey, we're working all these compromised accounts, and whether we get there in 5 minutes or 5 hours or whenever we got it, even if we crushed it in 5 seconds, the timeline actually started 5 hours later when the user received that email, right? And so the user was still compromised. We could pat ourselves on our back all we want for getting to the compromise quick before anything bad happened, but we were still 5 hours late because it happened in email, right? So we dove headfirst into email about 2 years ago and partnered with Sublime email security. And so now we're we are fighting in email in all sorts of interesting ways. So everything that we think about for protecting endpoints and protecting clouds in terms of threat hunting, building custom detections, building automations, incorporating some of those workflows into SOAR, we do now with what we call advanced email protection, but we do that via Sublime. And so that means we're plugged into all the nifty things the attackers are doing on the email side to bypass existing defenses, the same way we try to see how they're bypassing things on the endpoint. And there's all sorts of nifty tricks. So one is they're taking their entire message, their entire social engineering message of what they're trying to get you to do as an image, right? So all of that text, all that paragraph, all of the convincing you to do whatever you need to go do is just one image as an attachment. And what is that doing? It's bypassing all the email filters. It's bypassing your proof point because it can't read into that. It's not seeing the weird link. It's not seeing any of it.
Right.
So yeah, we've got the optical character recognition now to read into that text message. Other things that they're doing is a ton of brand and logo impersonation, right? So you see a lot of fake Microsoft messages trying to convince you to set up FA or something. We got brand and logo recognition. They're not providing the link, they're providing the QR code. Well, we can read into the QR code and we can do all the sandboxing and link analysis of that QR code. There's a lot of tricks on the email side that we're seeing. And the worst that I think, back to what makes me sort of get into a little bit of a rant, is using legitimate services like Dropbox to send legitimate messages, right? And then putting 1 or 2 degrees more of clicks. And there's only so much that you can do when it's an encrypted message and you need the user to do it, right? So I hate how, again, in this escalating battle of we do one thing, they do another thing, we've introduced things like secure link sharing or secure email sharing, and then the bad guys just pick it up and use it again. Right.
The other one that I think I've seen that is frustrating is where they'll take a leaked email or another compromise and hijack the thread.
Yep.
And so it's not coming from the person, but the thread looks like it is.
Yep. Yeah. What they're doing there is, when they gain access to a business email compromise, so they gave access to an account, and they recognize that that account is useful for how transactions happen.
Right.
They've set up mail forwarding rules to keep messages going to them, such that even if they lose access to the account, they're still getting email messages. So it's also, even if they still have access to the account, I think one more layer of deception to keep people pointing at each other who was compromised.
Right.
So yeah, they'll take the legitimate context from the thread about some transaction, bring it over, create a new domain, typo squatted domain, which again we can detect now with Levenshtein distance and domain registration times and all that cool stuff. But they'll take the whole thread, copy the thread, change the conversation, and then send it to the same person, and they think that the conversation's continuing.
Yep.
A lot of malicious DocuSign too. I didn't want to leave that one out too. Malicious DocuSign messages. There's a lot of activity going on to try to compromise accounts, and we're doing a lot of work to try to stop it.
Megan, you have any questions? I don't want to.
No, I would say it's so many interesting things. It's like, I know even just the DocuSign, we don't use it a lot here, but it just shows how broadly DocuSign is used, that it's been such a point of compromise for so long and for so many organizations.
What's baffling to me whenever I look at these things is, Recon is relatively small to the grand scheme of all the universe.
Yeah.
And yet just our little slice of the internet, we see the same thing you're seeing, right? We see the same thing across our customers, and we don't have 40,000 customers that, right? Just our little slice.
It's a small sample size.
It means that everybody's dealing with these same exact things. And it just speaks to the scale of how these campaigns are being conducted, right? And to me, what it really does is point to much higher up the stream of, if we can do this at our scale, it's just more globally from a
Yeah.
Yeah,
Microsoft
big players. Yeah,
big player perspective of like, why am I the one dealing with these compromised accounts,
What do
right?
they
Like
see
this, if
too?
I can find this so terribly reliably, why did it even happen in the first place,
right.
right? Like, why do I have an escalation in my playbook that says 100% of the time do this thing?
Right.
And that's just with my little sliver of understanding with what the bad guy's doing, right? I mean,
Right. There's no money in it for Dropbox to do that.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it always blows people's minds when when you tell them like, hey, some of these big like attack groups, they run as a business. They have a help
Mm-hmm.
desk. They have a ticketing center. They have subscription models, and they're
Well,
like,
I even remember reading about some of them, like even employees of the organizations doing bad things don't realize because it looks so legitimate. They don't realize that the operations, the things that they're being asked to do, or they could be HR. They have no clue that they're scamming people. They're like, I
Mm-hmm.
just work HR for this company of this name. Yeah, it's not like they're all there wearing bad guy hats either. So it's legitimate businesses posing as legitimately as they
You
possibly
see
can.
that a lot on the IT support scam
mm-hmm.
fraud,
Oh yeah.
and I I think they're in on it. But what can happen is there's a legitimate help desk happening in the evening or in the during the day, and then after hours there's the let's go scam
Mm.
grandmothers out of
Well, I
their
suppose
whatever through a
there could
fake
be
McAfee.
tiers
Yeah.
too, like getting that initial contact could be one tier, and then once somebody
Yep.
actually responds or clicks or picks up that phone, then they get on the phone with the person that's going to direct them and how to steal their information.
Yeah, you've got initial access brokers, and
Mm-hmm.
they sell access to various groups, and then you've
Right.
got the groups that are just creating the platforms that they're selling, right? The toolkits and the hacker tools, and they
Yeah,
just have a whole little black market ecosystem over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
about gosh, it's probably been 10 years, 8 or 10 years. It was anyway. I got a call in the evening from Microsoft support, and I was like,
Mhm.
I had my daughters were like 6 and 8 at the time, and I was like, let's have some fun. And so I put it on speakerphone, and I was like, all right, girls, just pay attention. And that was my record. I had him on the phone for almost an hour. It was like 46 minutes or something. And
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, yep, I went to that website. Oh, no, you don't see it? Oh, weird. Let me reboot. And I was just like seeing how long I could keep them. And yeah, it was a pretty good amount of time.
Yeah.
They can stay. I remember I called one of those numbers. I think what happened if you transposed one of the numbers on the back of the credit card, right?
Hmm.
And
Oh.
so if you made that mistake, you wind up calling a fake Chase Bank or whatever. And so I called this number knowing that it was a scam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And man, they had answers for everything, right? Oh no, this is just the rewards program and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
get you connected to the thing. And right, like they had an answer for all of, and I didn't go in super prepared to go have this
Oh,
conversation. And
no.
I was like, whatever. Like I couldn't, I was like, man, I would be totally hosed. They had an answer for everything. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to try to keep you going, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, they've gotten really good. I haven't gotten any calls, I don't think, since then. So
Yeah.
maybe I got taken off the list.
You're off the list.
Blacklisted.
That's what you got to do.
That'd be nice. Um, I did have one question going back to the start of Recon InfoSec. Just what led you to? Because I don't know. I guess it sounds like even though you weren't necessarily an entrepreneur all along, you were kind of entrepreneurial through the work that you did for the Air Force and other operations. But what led you to actually make that
Yeah.
jump and
Yeah.
start
So
your own?
I didn't found Recon InfoSec, but
Oh, okay.
the inception of Recon is largely through Air Force folks. So you got people like Eric Capuano, sort of exactly in the same story that I just said. Uh, we think there's a better way, right? And Eric
Hmm.
said, "I'm going to go build a better way," and that's what that became. And so, for me, I think entrepreneur is a strong word for me because I didn't take any of that risks, right? I just saw an awesome company doing awesome things with an awesome opportunity. For me, it's all an extension of threat hunting. So if I was to use sort of a, I guess an analogy, but I am in I'm on the insatiable. I have the insatiable need to find and stop bad guys, and I need that to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So starting in the Air Force with nothing but a bunch of PowerShell scripts until we wind up with the first defensive cyber weapon system, and then we're using that, and that sounds cool. And now we've got bigger and bigger tools. What I think about in Recon is just more opportunities to find and stop bad guys. Every new customer is another new environment, is another new opportunity to get into those fights, and to help people with those types of problems. So just growing my career and then growing Recon is just more leverage, more technology, more people, more opportunities, more environments, more endpoints, more users, more emails, right? To be in the fight of security operations, right? So no longer am I running around with, PowerShell scripts and a thumb drive. Now we've got a machine, and it's efficient and effective, and sort of a joy to be, zapping evil.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's why I love working here is you do get to see so many different environments, and you're, people have asked, like, why don't you go get a CISO job? I can do more good in this role than I could in that role.
Mm-hmm.
You can help more people, and plus I don't have to worry about the legal exposure. But
yeah, and that's for me, especially moving around through consulting type opportunities before this, where everything was an engagement where there wasn't a lot of consistency. I'd come in and come out, and maybe I had my tools, but it was always a new environment. Recon's been great for me as an opportunity, because we get to maintain and build our own machine and apply it to a problem, and so we're not sort of starting over every time, right?
yeah,
It's only improving. So it's almost as if I'm like the internal CISO that can build my castle and get everything the way that I want it to. It's a little bit of a more hybrid, right? Where our customers are going to do what other customers need to do, but I get to build this machine that keeps doing everything I need it to do for them. So
very cool. Nice.
And then one more question for you, just because sometimes we've got people that are new to InfoSec or trying to get into InfoSec. Are there any like key traits that you look for or recognize in your team that makes them like great threat hunters, great incident response people? Are there certain personality traits at all that kind of match that group?
Yeah. So a lot of people point to the problem solving of cybersecurity as some of the, like, what kind of attracts them to it. What I tell folks is good problem solving skills, and to think of yourself as a builder. So I've talked about this idea of building the machine. So if you can be somebody who is constantly tinkering, solving problems, and building things to solve problems, making things repeatable, building the tools that you need to do the CTF, right? To me, those people go far, because you're demonstrating that you're somebody that's not just going to do a task, but you're going to design the solution to that problem in the first place, right? So aspire to be that type of problem solver, and then aspire to have the technical skills and understanding to not just solve the problem, but to build the thing that solves the problem. And to me, those people go far, because next thing you know, you're owning the whole process. You're owning that solution. You're owning that platform. You're owning that piece. And I think those folks go really far.
That was one thing I always did when interviewing for technical roles, is ask a really kind of tricky question. I didn't care if they got the technical answer correct, but like, walk me through the process of how you would try and figure it out. I wanted to see their troubleshooting thought process, because you can teach the technical stuff, but you can't. Yeah. It's a lot harder to teach that, like you were saying, the problem solving, the thought, the troubleshooting approach. It's that inquisitive,
and that comes from tinkering. You tinker enough, and you're going to have to be a good troubleshooter. So play with Arduinos, do your own home lab. Build Linux from scratch. Just if you can tell me about your projects, right, where you're building something through those projects, like, you're showing all those skills, right? Now I'm going to give you an awesome project over here, apply it toward my problems, and the next thing you know, you've built the next big thing.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, we are coming up on our time, so we always wrap up with a shout out, so gratitude. So I'll let Megan go first, so you can have a second to think about it. Megan, you got any shout outs?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to my mentee Abby. She invited me to what was it? WLIT, Women Leaders in Technology conference this week, and we went together, and it was awesome. It was great to be in a room with a whole bunch of other women in technology, women leaders in technology, and the presentation was great. And it was also just great to see her again and kind of hang out and relate on that note too. So thanks to her and to the WLIT and I think Minnesota Tech Foundation too for putting on that event. So it was pretty cool.
Nice. All right, Andrew, you got someone?
Oh man, it can be a group, and
It could
I
be
feel
anybody. It could be a group.
yeah.
It could be a person. Whatever you
It
want.
sounds a little self-serving, but you got me bragging about Recon so much that just the whole Recon team, I am constantly grateful for. Like the reason I'm in the position that I'm in now, and the reason my role is so awesome, is because I'm just backed by a team that can do amazing things and are building the amazing things that I get to play with every day, right? Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I'm grateful every day for everything the Recon team is doing to just have an awesome atmosphere, environment, protect customers, keep us on the right side of boom, right? And to give us all interesting work and to learn from each other. I mean, it's just awesome. Um, yeah, I'm gonna sit with that because
I think it.
I'm not I'm not a one man show here. We're all doing amazing things, and I'm just getting this.
That's awesome.
There's a reason, right? There's a reason it gets to be an awesome
It's,
job, right?
Yep.
yeah, it's awesome when you can be part of a team like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same vein. I'm going to give a shout out to one of our cams, Dave. I had a problem earlier this week and was just he had it's the same thing, right? Our key account manager, so kind of on the customer success side, and he just had a different way of looking at it than I do, and it was like, oh, thank you. So yeah, it's awesome to have a group that you can work with and reach out and get those different perspectives and it's just it's awesome. It's fun. It makes work a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Megan, what do we got to wrap up with? I'm
Oh,
put you on the spot.
Yes, you are. I am supposed to announce what our next topic is, and now I have to look it up.
Megan's the organized
Okay,
one.
yes. I'm the organized one. At least I can find it quickly, even if I didn't already have it ready to go. Yeah, our next one, our guest is pending, but we're going to cover what does a CISO want for Christmas. So that should be a pretty fun topic.
There you go. And as always, you can reach out to us on an email at unsecurity@FRSecure.com. With that, we will talk to you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.